Good morning, Texans for Vaccine Choice. You know, I have to give it to you. Not only were my children on time this morning, you guys were on time this morning. Like, I'm so proud of you. How many of you, after you've been following us for weeks and weeks, finally understand the capital chaos? Do you get it now? Like, we try really hard. If you do not know, my name is Jackie Schlegel. I am the Executive Director of Texans for Vaccine Choice. I am so happy and honored to host you here today. I want to kick off with a really fun story. So if you do not know, I'm a mom of 3 amazing children. 2 right here. Y'all, can you wave? Okay. You're going to be hearing from them later today. But I also am the parent of a profoundly disabled child who was injured by her pertussis vaccine. This has been a really extraordinarily difficult year for us. We're going to be talking about that throughout the next 2 days. We want to hear your stories. This is a member-focused event. This is here for you. So as we were loading in at the loading dock last night, it was me, Rebecca, my kids. We had Rachel Davis, our communications director, her beautiful family here in the second row. And we're loading in and we're pulling our wagons, and a Capitol staffer stopped me and said, "Don't you have people for that?" And I said, "We are the people." So we are the people. We show up and we get it done, okay? So here's what I love. On a nationwide level, on a worldwide level, they see this massive organization. They see these people pounding the pavement. They call us lobbyists and they say we're well-funded. I'm still waiting for that to come through, right? Let me tell you about the truth of Texans for Vaccine Choice. This started 4 years ago because it was personal to me, it was personal to you, and it was personal to each, every one of you out there. Whatever your story is, whatever brought you here today matters. Your children matter, your voices matter. We care about you, and we could not do this without you. With all of that said, we are going to dive right in. The key of the next 2 days is flexibility. Can I share another fun story? We just had one of our featured panelists walk in, and I got a text this morning that said, "We're running late, Dominic got out." So, like, I'm panicking, like, we lost a kid? No, we lost a donkey. They lost a donkey. I'm sorry. I had to share the story, guys. Because when I say we are ordinary people who have a passion and are here fighting for our rights. That's what we're going to do. We have legislators that are going to have to get to the House floor at some point. So we are going to kick this off first and foremost with Representative Kyle Biedermann, who is going to lead us in a prayer. Total impromptu, because I just felt so led going into the next 2 days to kick us off on the right foot. So Representative Biedermann.
Thank you, Jackie, and what a joy it is to be here and talk about ordinary people. Bill, or Representative Zedler, and myself are ordinary people. We feel honored to be here amongst you all, because without you, this whole movement on parental choice and God being in control of our families, our parents, and our children would not be happening. So thank you. I'm going to pray right now real quickly for this meeting. Heavenly Father, we're just so grateful for you, knowing that you created us in your image and likeness, that you created us to be the people of your passion, the ones that will further your kingdom, to be the ones that people will see and want to know you. And we just pray that you would give us that amazing spirit that people would want to know who we are and ask why we have a great message and a joy in our lives no matter what is going on in this world. And we just pray for your Holy Spirit to bring power to this movement and power to those of us that are making decisions here in the Capitol, knowing that your will be done. And we just pray for your glory and for you to be exalted in everything that we do. And we just love you, Lord, and we praise you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.
All right, so I'm going to do some quick introductions. I don't have your bio in front of me, so I don't know if you really need, do we all know Mr. Nico LaHood? Amen. All right. Is there a greater champion in this fight? Former district attorney, father, anything else I need to say about you?
Husband.
Amazing family, husband. You are a great warrior in this fight. We are so excited to have you today. We are joined with another man who needs no introduction, Representative Bill Zedler. Do we love Representative Bill Zedler? He's been with us since day one. We're so proud and honored to have him here. Rebecca Hardy, Director of State Policy. She does so much more than just the state policy, but you're really going to talk to us about the state of the state here this morning. And of course, Representative Kyle Biedermann. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to hand the microphone to Mr. Nico LaHood here, and let's kick off the state of the state.
Well, thank you very much. You will have to excuse me for some people call passionate, other people say I come across angry, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I am angry at times. When you have a son or a child that has been stolen from you, essentially, because of other people's greed, intentional deception, and then it affects our lives and destiny in our lives and grandchildren or potential grandchildren, it's going to irritate you. Now, what we do with that anger, and whether we respond with anger, righteous anger, not uncontrollable anger, what we do with that anger in response, not reaction. And so I pray every day for wisdom. James 1:5 said, if any man lacks wisdom, ask. It will be given to you abundantly. So I pray for the Lord's wisdom. Thank you for your prayer. I am a man of faith, but then also Hosea 4:6 says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And that's the issue we're dealing with here. I shelf my experiences as a daddy of a vaccine-injured child when I talk about vaccines. And I wear my hat as a lawyer. As the former elected DA in Bexar County, I reviewed evidence for a living. That's what I did. It didn't matter, and I'm going to keep it PG rated because there's too many kids here, but it didn't matter if I didn't like the lawyer that I was up against. It didn't matter if I liked the citizen accused that I was evaluating. I had to look at the evidence. I looked at the law given to us by the Penal Code and by our legislators, and then I looked at the facts, evidence we call it, merged them together to reach this elusive concept called justice. What does that mean? Justice. And so that's what I did. And so I shelved my experience as a daddy. Yes, I'm a daddy. I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a child of God. Those are all the things that identify me. I happen to be the DA. I happen to work as a lawyer, as a profession. But that's not who I am. That's what I do. So as a daddy, I can't ignore the fact that our son Michael is on the spectrum of autism. I can't ignore the fact that he wasn't born that way. I don't care what anybody tells me. Nobody knows our child like my wife and myself. I can't ignore the fact that I have pictures and video of him just developing normal, quote unquote, and reaching every milestone. I can't ignore that fact, and I can't ignore the fact that something happened that changed for us. I can't ignore the fact that we weren't in a car accident and I didn't drop him. I can't ignore those facts. So there was an intervening cause. In the law we call it causation. Something happened, and I'm not okay with, I don't care what profession, medical, pharmaceutical, or whatever, telling me it's just the way it is. That doesn't work out in my world. Not as a professional, not as a human being, not as a Christian. It just doesn't work that way. So there's nothing wrong with asking questions. I don't ignore those facts. So I shelved that as a daddy in my emotions, and I look at this objectively. And objectively, this issue it's not logically consistent for me. Because even as a man of faith, as whatever aspect of my life or worldview that I have, any worldview that you will ever hear come out of this mouth will be logically consistent, whether you agree with it or not. I will have reasoned through it and try to be logically consistent. And any worldview that I advocate for cannot violate the law of non-contradiction. It can't contradict itself. It has to be logically consistent, and it cannot contradict itself. And so I use those skills, and they have to be honed. I use my professional mind to evaluate the evidence behind vaccines. And I've done that. And for me, it just starts and ends here whenever I get into a discussion with somebody. Show me the double-blind placebo study that justifies the safety, the efficacy of these vaccines. And I mean, you guys know this better than I do, so I'm not going to sit here and give you a lecture on the science or lack thereof of this. But what I will talk to you about is the insanity behind the religion of vaccines.
Amen.
It's an absolute insanity. And in my world, you can't name call someone into silence. If I was now I'm a defense attorney, but when I was a prosecutor, I never walked in and said, "You're guilty." Why? Because I said so. Nobody believed that. When the government says that about my clients, I say, "Yeah, well, show me the evidence." Well, I have an expert that says something else. And then we go to a jury of our peers, and we advocate based on evidence who's right. And the people deliberate and come back with an opinion. I did the same thing, objectively. Because nobody cares. Look, the truth doesn't care about your feelings. You know that, right? And you don't have a constitutional right not to be offended. It's nowhere in the Constitution, unless you guys want to amend it this session. So you don't have a constitutional right not to be offended. And the truth doesn't care about your feelings. And so I don't ignore those things and that perspective when I evaluate my own feelings and when I look at the evidence or lack thereof of this issue that has become an epidemic. And if we don't wake up and shell feelings and have conversations, and notice the only people that don't want to have conversations are the ones that are advocating the deception. See, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm a pro-truther.
Amen.
I'm anti-murder. I'm anti-sexual assault. There's other things I'm anti, but I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Because I vaccinated my first 2 kids from head to toe. One of them has a problem with her skin. Thank God her mind is beautiful. And the other one, Michael, is on the spectrum of autism. Our last 2 kids don't have one vaccine in them. Not one. So we become an unintended experiment. One ear infection. When they get sick, they get better. Go figure. When God put this thing called an immune system in us, and it works pretty well. If you do things right, you can't just put a bunch of junk in you. So that's a different discussion. But I mean, we become this unintended experiment where 2 kids were vaccinated per the schedule because we were sheep. We just followed it. Nobody questions the doctor. And then we have 2 that don't have one vaccine in them. And our medical healthcare professional, Barry Smeltzer's here. It's been a blessing, him and his wife, Linda. And they're going to talk later on from the... Try to shut me up. And so later on, about that. And so we've seen this difference in these children. No ear infection, things of this nature. So I'm going to shut up now because Jackie says that we're going to have a lot of other time to talk. So I really want to respect my colleagues and their time and their sacrifice for being here. And I want to tell you this. Romans 13 says to give honor to whom honor is due. And for individuals, and these 2 men, and there's a difference between men and women, by the way. That's another talk. But there's 2 men to be bold. And to stand up against this political insanity, because it affected me in my race as Diego figure. I got attacked for my opinion on truth as DA, which was ridiculous. We can talk about political parties and platforms and who supports what. There's nothing off limits with me, by the way. Ask me any question you want, but I'll warn you, be careful because you'll get an honest answer whether you like it or not.
Right.
But I want to give honor to these men for being here, for giving, because they're being pulled in 10 different directions during the session. I promise you their staff members are like, hurry up, we got to get you over here. Don't go there. What does it care? They support you anyway. You know, I get it. And they don't get any money being here, I promise you. They probably lost donations for being here. But they're here because they believe in truth and doing what's right for our children, the next generation. That if we don't do something and start having real conversations and be bold and educate people, we will lose a generation. We'll lose that. So thank you folks very much.
All right, you will be hearing a lot from Mr. Hood these next 2 days. We're so excited to have you here. Thank you for sharing your story. He is absolutely right. These 2 gentlemen here, these 2 state representatives, this is a challenging time in this building to stand with Texans for vaccine choice. Am I right?
Amen.
This is a challenging time. These 2 are heroes for being here. Representative Bill Zedler and Representative Kyle Biedermann. Do not forget those names. May I hand the microphone over to you to talk about your experience being here.
Okay. God bless you. Thank you for having me. And as I want to always say, the real lions of this work, Rebecca and Jackie and all of you. It's just every now and then I get the honor to get up and give the roar. So, God bless you. Thank you for being here. Let me tell you, we have a fight on our hands, but here it is. You know what? The truth is on our side.
Amen.
And the first thing we need to do is take on the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that is, newsflash, the measles is not the Ebola virus. In fact, let me just share with you this. This was from the British Medical Journal, 1959, before they had vaccines, or at least the measles vaccine. And it said, this was an article out there, and it said, in the majority of the children, the whole episode has been well and truly over in a week. In this practice, measles is considered as a relatively mild and an inevitable childhood ailment that is best encountered anytime between 3 and 7 years of age. Over the past 10 years, there have been few serious complications at any age, and all children have made a complete recoveries. As a result of this reasoning, no special attempts have been made at prevention even in young infants in whom the disease has not been found to be especially serious. That's the British Medical Journal. But the other thing is this. To me, some of the greatest evidence that the truth's on our side and we're winning is when the other side will not debate.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden when we get together and we're going to have a debate about this, and they say, okay, we'll be there, and all of a sudden they turn around and
not there.
The chairs are empty because the other side has refused to show up. Let me tell you something. Anytime you want to have a debate about free enterprise versus socialism, I'll be there. You know why? Because I know I have the evidence on my side. But the other side is not showing up because guess what? The evidence is not on their side, and they're afraid to be exposed. But the other thing is this. The vaccine industry is the only industry that had to go to the federal government to ask them to bail them out in 1986. Otherwise, they were going out of business, having to pay all the money to people who were injured by vaccines. And the fact that since 1986, the federal government has paid out $4 billion with a B, dollars in injury funds to people injured by vaccines. That is not a product that is safe. So the deal is we're going to have this battle down here in the State House, and I know with your support and your prayers, we'll be victorious. So God bless you all. Thank you for being here.
Well, I have the honor of introducing Representative Kyle Biedermann. He is out of the Fredericksburg area. He is a small business owner who felt the call of God to run for office, and this is his second session. He has stood with us from the very beginning, and it is my honor to hand the microphone over to you.
Thank you, Ryan. I have a much different experience than Bill, Representative Zedler. Excuse me. I don't have a lot of knowledge in the medical field. I don't have a lot of knowledge in vaccines. I don't have a lot of knowledge in basically any of this stuff. I became a state rep last year, and I found out about vaccine choice for my first time. But then I realized God had put me in a special place for this because I never got vaccinated as a child, ever. But it was for religious reasons, and I was one of the few in my school, never thought about it, but we also didn't take medicine. We got the measles, we got the mumps, we got all sorts of things, but we never took medicine for it, again, for religious reasons. And I just realized we hardly ever got sick. Our friends are getting sick all the time. We weren't getting sick. Well, fast forward, I have children. I have 4 daughters. And God bless. Thank you, Jesus. My daughters are all very healthy. And they all got vaccinated. I had no idea what I was. We just did what we were told. So I vaccinated all my daughters. But we never took medicine again for when they got sick. When they got ear infections, we didn't go get all the antibiotics, all that kind of stuff. We did once in a blue moon. That's it. I just knew in my mind that was not the right thing to do. And the more you take, the more you need, and the more you get sick. And I'm just watching all their friends getting sick all the time. And my girls weren't. Fast forward to right now. So here it is, many years later, and I'm standing here talking to you all, and I now recognize the danger and the misinformation and the untruths and flat out just lies about vaccines and all the medicines that pharmaceutical companies are making us take and all the money they're making off of it. And so I'm just here to tell you that you don't have to have a lot of knowledge. You all have the experience. You all are living the unfortunate consequences of what our society, what our medical institutions are doing to us. And you all standing up is making a voice that we can make a change. And it makes it easier for Representative Zedler and I. We just can tell the truth. Just like Nico said, we just tell the truth. Now, we don't have to worry about what anybody else says or what they think about us, because basically, we don't fear man. We don't fear God.
Amen.
And with God on our side, who can be against us?
Amen.
So we need to just continue what we're doing. We want you to be encouraged to continue what you're doing and know that we have many lives to save and many lives that are needing our help and our support to stand strong. And of course, legislatively, we want to continue, we have to continue to allow parents to choose what's best for their children.
Amen.
Yes.
And not be led by the government. So I am just blessed to be here, and like I said, I have nothing else to say except thank you to you all. Thank God for what He's done and putting us in this place right here today. This is where it is. It's not what happened behind, it's what happens forward. So let's move forward together in power and in strength. Thank you. God bless.
Well, do we have time for a few quick questions? Sure. Okay. How much time do we have left on this panel? Like 15 minutes? Our legislators are very busy. They have to jump up and go at any time, but we're going to squeeze in as many questions. So I would like to know, I'm here on a daily basis. We get to see each other and interact often. The vibe of this legislative session has drastically shifted since last session, 2 years ago, where we were very widely accepted, embraced. That has changed. Why has it changed, and what is the feeling in this building with Texans for a Vaccine Choice?
I think that the other side has seen that they've absolutely got to do something, so I think they're pouring in millions of dollars to try and get something done this time. And so I think, first of all, whoever, if you have your state rep, your state senator, you need to go and talk to them about your experience, talk to them about the facts dealing with this industry. And so I think that's very important. The other thing is, obviously, keep praying, because that is where our real strength is. So.
And I agree. The reason that we're having legislation coming against us or trying to is because we've been so successful. Last session we came out of nowhere and look at the victories that we got and the message that we got out. We scared the heck out of them. We scared the heck out of the people that have all the money pouring into these legislators, and they thought they had them taken care of until you all showed up. And they don't like that. So this is an exciting time because now we can truly show that that this is a battle that we can win. And we can win it because we're going to do it together. And we're going to win it because we have the facts and the truth on our side. And of course, we have God on our side. So, thank you.
I'll tell you what I've experienced. The problem that you're going to run into with your reps and senators is two things. A lack of courage. Courage is a word that's not used enough. Courage and then ignorance. And some of it's willful ignorance, right? I told you about Hosea 4:6 earlier. My people perish for lack of knowledge. And so that lack of knowledge is ignorance. So I'm not saying to be mean or disrespectful. I'm ignorant to a lot of things also. I was ignorant to vaccines until our son got injured. I was ignorant to it. Now I just dove into it. So that happens to all of us. So, and then you're going to be dealing with the fact that some, not these gentlemen here, But there are people that are politicians and there's public servants. A public servant is not afraid to die to politics for the right principle, right? Or for people. A politician is a prostitute that works for money. And as a former prosecutor, I look for motive. And so when I'm thinking about why would these vaccines, I really had to think about this when I first got into this. I had a doctor tell my wife that our first daughter that reacted to vaccines was allergic to her breast milk. I said, hey, doc, my elevator doesn't make it to the top floor a lot of times, but you're insane. How do you have that license? Maybe something in her breast milk? No, it was her breast milk. There's a kind of insanity and deception out there. And so we have to educate people, we have to empower them and encourage them, and that means that you have to be prepared to have conversations in a very real way and not be afraid to call names and then talk to these people, but know that we're dealing with the motivation of money. We all know that. It's a $1 billion industry with no marketing costs and the deception behind it. We can talk about Vioxx and opioids and all that. It's the same culture and mindset. It's money driven. So I look for motives when I was a prosecutor. Somebody killed so-and-so. Was it self-defense or murder? If it was murder, what's the motive? Because there has to be something that goes in the mens rea, the mental intent, to want to do something, to act out. And so the motive is money. So just know that you're dealing with money, and then this money is causing people to just lie. When you hear media just say, science is settled. Well, these experts over here are going to talk about the science. I can jack people up with science, and I'm a lawyer, but I deal with science all the time. But these guys will make them just look stupid. And again, so it's just education. So just know that's what you're dealing with, but they can't fight your testimony. If my wife and I were 1 in 1,000 people that had the same story of bright-eyed young boy that was listening to his name, responding, not stemming, not having tics on a regular basis, and looking at you, eye contact, and starting to goo-goo gaga and doing the early stages of talking, and then nothing. If we didn't have that testimony and we were 1 in 1,000, there's hundreds of thousands of families, maybe some in here, that have the same or similar testimony. You can't ignore that fact. And when you have no studies to back it up, no evidence, then you have to ask questions. So just know the battlefield. Think about what you're going to say. Arm yourself with knowledge. Encourage people just to educate themselves. There's like Vax. Dell's going to be here, right?
Yep.
Vax is a great thing. Just watch this hour and a half. The Truth About Vaccines, Ty Bollinger. The Truth About Vaccinations, another one. There's all kinds of stuff on YouTube, thank God, and there's shorter versions. Dr. Humphreys, there's all people that are talking out there and can advocate for you. Maybe put together a little email, say, will you please just look at these little snips? I've always thought of just creative ways to educate people. That's our battle, is ignorance and willful ignorance and lies.
Absolutely. One conversation at a time is what we like to say. One conversation at a time. Becca, would you like to speak briefly on what bills we do have? Look, if we wouldn't have been running around till like 2 in the morning for the last 3 weeks, we would have like PowerPoint presentations. But we were so busy putting this together, but we do have it online and with our capital resources. But what type of bills are we facing this legislative session?
Well, let's start with the bad news. Okay, because I like to end on a high note. Okay, we have the opposition's banner legislation that they are really pushing and really hang the success of their session on for the past 2 sessions is a bill we call the Campus Reporting Bill. This is a bill currently exemption rates are reported at the district level. This bill would tease those rates down to the individual campus and post them on the health department's website for all the world to see.
Wait, say it again. I'm sorry, what was that?
This bill would post exemption rates at every single campus in the state on the health department's website. Now they say that this is de-identified information, and I could say, in a school of 5,000, I could see where that wouldn't be a problem. But when you get to some of these smaller campuses, it is a big issue. And regardless of the size of the campus, this is a fundamental violation of medical privacy. We are not reporting on how many kids at campus are HIV positive. are hepatitis B positive that show up with any sort of infectious disease. Why? Because it's medically protected information. An unsick, unvaccinated child is absolutely, like that is a status that should be protected as well. So that bill has been filed in both chambers. Again, we also have some new, Sarah Davis, ironically, Representative Sarah Davis has not filed any legislation. Representative Gene Wu seems to have taken on the mantle this session. He has filed some legislation that would be what I call campus reporting for child care facilities. So we kind of have a distinction between school campuses and child care facilities. Two different licensing agencies are oversee those two entities, and so it'd be campus reporting for child care, any sort of preschool, pre-K, daycare would be a campus reporting bill for that. And then we also have what I call campus reporting for long-term care facilities. This would report vaccination rates at any long-term care facility as well. So this seems to be their new MO. Let's start reporting rates of unvaccination in order to really, I would say, to create and incite fear. And then the next step becomes mandates for sure. You know, they definitely have a strong stepping stone bill game. And so that's kind of what we are facing on the bad side. We also, go ahead.
Let me say something about the bad side. That's where we come in. We come in to kill that stuff. That's what we do.
Worthy of applause.
Last session, we didn't have very many bills like this to kill. We had bills last session to amend. So what we'll do on these bills, if we can't kill these bills, we will amend these bills to make them so they will not apply to those people with vaccines. They're not taking vaccines. Or whatever we have to do, we'll change this legislation or we'll kill it. So that's what our job is, and that's what we need your help for. Encourage and pray for us, because we're getting ready for it. This is all about strategy here. It's hard for people to realize how things work. It doesn't work the way you think it might work, or the way you want it to work. And, you know, I remember before I got into politics, which was only 4 years ago, I sat around the coffee shop for years with my buddies, and we had everything figured out. I mean, it was easy.
What are the bill numbers to ask our reps to vote against?
We'll get that to you in a minute, okay? And so it was easy to figure it out. Then you get here, and it's a whole different story. It is about strategy. It is about strategy. So just know that we are strategizing with Rebecca and Jackie and others on what to do in those bad bills.
Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? I think most people want to ask this, because I've been asked this. Is this a political party issue, or is it individuals? I mean, is this Republican versus Democrat thing? Is this just ignorance versus knowledge thing? What is it? I think people need to know that overall. That's a discussion.
Do we get to talk about your political affiliation and how that played in?
Sure.
Yeah. What did you run in Bexar County?
I ran under the Democrat platform mistakenly. And so I was thinking of the old, well, I'm just being honest, I'm thinking of the old school Blue Dog Democrat, which I was. I'm a conservative guy, I'm a Christian, I have certain worldviews that I've shared and talked with people, and I was attacked literally. I mean, it was just not accepted and called names and, oh, how can you be DA if you don't listen to science? It was because I'm listening to science, and that's why I think I'm a good DA, but that's another story. And so there was a lot of discussion. So it became very political, and that's why I'm asking from a state level, was that just a local thing with a small group of people that created incited fear, or is it something on a statewide level that's a political party thing or not?
Well, I think first of all, there is something inherent in the two parties. With the Republican Party, there's a more or less a generalized philosophy of individual freedom, individual responsibility, less reliance on big government, especially big government mandates and that kind of thing. We feel like the government is there to protect the border and that kind of thing, not to run our lives. Whereas on the other hand, the Democratic Party is more of a big government, top-down, more control from the top type philosophy. But there's also people from an individual basis. It's really one-on-one. We saw Democrats that were willing to say, you know what, I see the problem, and I don't believe in forcing people to take something that could be harmful to them. And so, it's driven both ways. I think when Jackie and Rebecca went to the Democratic convention down at the state convention, there was less, they weren't as receptive as they were at the Republican convention. Because at the Republican convention, there's, just like I say, there's more, we believe in individual freedom, that kind of thing. So, but we can change hearts and minds one-on-one.
I want to quickly chime in here because we've got to wrap this up, and I want to give them some minute to give some final words. On that note, I want to say, while typically speaking, the majority of our support has come from Republicans and we haven't gained a lot of Democrat support, if you watch closely and see those who actively fight the hardest against us, it is a handful of very vocal, active Republicans. And that's, so it does really go both ways. Even though Democrats aren't out there, fighting for us and with us and voting with us, it's a handful of very vocal and semi-powerful Republicans that are out there pushing against us.
That is so unfortunate. But again, it's really not Democrat, Republican. It is God or not God. That's what it is. It's a spiritual battle out there. These people that are actively going against this type of legislation, or for this legislation, basically they are, it's not about party. It's about an ideology. It's a belief in their heart. For them to allow this, it's the same as abortion. How can you fight to kill your children? How can you do that unless you are seared in your heart? And that's what it is. It's not Democrat, Republican. Now, it also comes down to why a lot of Republicans, because they were there. If they campaign and they campaign on this, they're not going to be that popular. That's where it comes down to money. Okay? And Nico, you said it just right. It comes down to money. And there is a lot of money, just as Nico knows in his race for DA in San Antonio. There's a lot of money in the state and out of the state that wants this because they want to protect what they have.
Right.
They want to protect their business, their profits, over families and children. And that's the truth.
And I would just add that, we always say vaccine choice should not be a partisan issue. I mean, it is a human rights issue. Right. What you do and do not inject into your body should apply to all humans regardless of race, religion, country of origin, citizen status. It is a fundamental human right and not a partisan one. So it really is unfortunate that we have not been able to garner the support of the Democrats yet, but we don't back down around here.
Have you enjoyed this first panel? Do you appreciate these heroes that took time out of the busiest day of the year? Stand up, stand up. And while we are honoring these two champions in particular in this building, I have to give a shout out to their incredible staff. Miss Karen Dyer is here. She is the Chief of Staff for Representative Biedermann. You have no idea what this staff does for us and goes above and beyond. They are heroes in this movement for a different reason, so give them another round of applause. Thank you all for being here.